Welcome to Saturday versus Sunday. I'm Jeff Dover. With me is John Barbin. Let's talk football.
Yeah, we're talking NFL Week 8 reaction. We're going to start with our best evers, and then we're going to move on to our worst evers and give out some flowers.
Well, it'd be best ever if you'd like to subscribe to the video. If you guys like what you hear, that would really help us out.
Yeah, we would greatly appreciate it. All right, shall I get started?
Sure, there's a lot to choose from. A lot of best ever and worst ever from this week.
Oh yeah, I had to really chop these lists down. There was so much. I did my pack a bunch of teams into one category.
Oh, did you?
Again. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Number 3 best ever thing I saw was backup QBs winning.
Okay.
So starting with Jameis Winston, I guess he's the starter now, but they earned the shirt. Now that Watson's gone, they earned the shirt. And 27 for 41, 334, 3 TDs, no interceptions. And Winston's usually good for 1 or 2. He's just a gunslinger back there, and he looked great. And if you actually look through the stat lines, there was no major turnovers in this game. They just beat them. It's not like they got lucky short fields on a couple lucky kick returns or anything like that. They just straight up beat them. So that was a super impressive win. I saw a highlight reel of Ravens receivers dropping passes that hit them right in the numbers or right in the chest. So that was pretty bad. Like, it's not because Jackson played bad for any reason. It's, that Browns defense is really good. Mm-hmm. And Winston, clearly there's something he can do that Watson couldn't do. So that was just a proper win there. It's also nice that Nick Chubb is back. So maybe it's probably too late to turn it around for this season, Winston's not going to keep up like this all season, but that was a good one.
Hey, it's arguably the biggest upset according to point spread, the NFL this weekend, right? Yeah. So, and Cleveland was really left for dead, after Watson was injured, and like that they're struggling at so many levels. And that this was similar to when Carolina put in their backup QB, and it looks like a different team. Like Baltimore looked like the best team in the AFC up until this week, and then they really didn't this week.
No. All right. So, and then next, Malik Willis.
Yep.
Came in relief of Jordan Love. This is just a recurring theme here. It's unfortunate that Love keeps getting hurt, but Willis, I mean, it's not a huge stat line, but it doesn't matter. He didn't turn the ball over, and
he had a TD and Love didn't.
He had a TD and Love didn't, and no mistakes. Seems to be pretty confident now, just stepping in and running that offense whenever he needs to. So they're in a great position with their starting and backup QB there, unlike some other teams. But yeah, he looked great, and it's not even surprising, I guess, at this point that he steps in and they win. And then the last one, Jacoby Brissett, it's looked rough all year, and he came in and it didn't really look all that pretty, but they got the win. And this is more, well, we're going to get to how bad the Jets are, but I mean, and statistically, there's nothing impressive going on here, but came off the bench. This is what he's there for as a backup, and got the win in a totally ugly game, but good for Brissett.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So the number 3 best thing that I saw in the NFL this weekend was the Rams beating Minnesota. Like the Rams looked like a good team. Like we thought going into the game, we'd bet on Minnesota, which we did, didn't win. But the Rams really looked like a shell of themselves for this start of the season, but getting Cooper Kupp back and Puka looked amazing, and they looked like a completely different team. And they've done this before where they've started out slow and then sort of, rattle off like 8 wins. So I thought they looked like a different team, and, they could be dangerous coming forward, but that was a really good showing against a really good Minnesota team.
Yeah. I had a note saying Stafford completed a pass to 9 different receivers in that game. And Nakua and Kupp, I don't think had TDs, but the other receivers were piling in the TDs. And the other thing, Kyren Williams.
Yeah, he's a difference maker. Yeah.
By the end of that game, we bet against them. That didn't go well. And by the end of that game, I thought, oh my God, at full strength, this offense has got to be top 5 in the league. And Stafford looks like MVP level candidate the way he's playing. Like, he was just completely in control. Didn't matter which receiver you tried to take away. He just threw it to the next one, and there was just no problem.
No, for sure. And you're right. Like this is I guess the healthiest they've looked before too. But Kyren Williams ran for almost 100 yards and he had 5 catches. So that's he had a really good game.
He's really good. That was a really good pickup. All right. So my next the second best thing I saw was the Detroit Lions. And partly because this was the strangest, there's the shirt. Partly because this was the strangest stat line to go with how big of a margin of victory this was. So here, I gotta pull up these. There's too many. I was gonna write them down, but I couldn't write them all down. I just have to reference the website. There's just so many things that happened in this game. So, Jared Goff. Okay, we got to remember, they won 52-14. Jared Goff went 12 for 15 for 85 yards.
Yeah, so I was when I was doing my flowers category, I was like, oh, I'll put Goff on from the Lions, and I'm like, can't really do that. Like, didn't do anything wrong.
Well, you just didn't. He didn't need it. Okay, so there's so much more going on here. And Hendon Hooker got a couple of snaps.
Yep.
I mean, and if you in the NFL they subtract sack yards from your passing yards, whereas in college I think it goes against rushing yards maybe, but in pro for sure it goes against your passing yards. So that if you want to get very technical, the team's net passing yard was only 61 yards, and they won 52-14.
Yeah.
The other crazy thing is they only rushed for 164.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a team who had net, I don't know, 220 yards, something, not a lot of yards. Then the hidden yards
225.
Here.
Yep.
The hidden yards here are in the kick return and punt return, where Khalif Raymond, and 4 turnovers, right? So short fields, either from turnovers or short fields from long
special teams,
long returns. So Khalil Dorsey had a kick return for 72 yards. And then Khalif Raymond had 5 punt returns for 190 total yards. One went for 90 yards and one went for a TD. And as I was reviewing the game, he had another 42-yard return call back on a hold. Now, I don't know if the hold sprung him or not. It's just the point that he got that far again on another one. So this could have been already, that's 260 yards of kick and punt return. So it could have been an over 300 yards of punt return in this game. So that's where all of these hidden yards are. That's how you end up with such odd stat lines here, where the QB didn't have to throw, they didn't have to rush, and they completely blew their doors off.
Right. So your number 2 best thing is really the Detroit special teams. That's what, because it wasn't throwing and it wasn't running. It was getting the returning kicks,
but
the turnovers
just,
and stuff.
Yeah, and the oddity of putting that many points up without having to use your offense really to cover the ground. I mean, the Titans outgained them, but all they were doing was going between the 20s and then fumbling the ball. So I was going to put this as the Titans' worst special teams I've ever seen, but I don't know. I guess it kind of is. It really, no one should be returning 260 yards worth on you. Like that's you're screwing it up more than they have this superior blocking scheme.
Yeah, that I was going to say that in the NFL, you don't see. It's really rare to see that many return yards. So it's a fine line between they did a really good job on special teams and the other team didn't. So.
That was a horrific display of kick coverage. Punt and kick coverage is really bad. So I mean, good for Detroit though. They capitalized they were just constantly putting the ball in the end zone. So yeah, they look like the best team in the NFC for sure.
Very true. Win multiple different ways, right? Which is really the sign of a good team. Okay, so the second best thing that I saw the NFL this weekend was Isaac Guerrero. Am I saying that right? Guerrero. He was fantastic. So he had 14 rushes for 85 yards. And it's just another example in the Shanahan offense, how they can plug people in and have, but this guy had a 4.3 40 in the combine or something, which is super
fast.
rare for a running back. And he looked great. Like he looks like he's going to be another significant weapon, because they've lost some people on that team. And to be able to replace it with a guy that he looked really dynamic. So like that's for sure next week. Well, they've got to buy next week, but the week after that, they're going to have some game plan stuff for him going forward because he was a difference maker on the field.
Yeah. I mean, they lost McCaffrey and then Mason comes in. Mason's leading the league in rushing. Then he goes out. Now Guerendo's in, and Guerendo looks kind of just like no, but I mean specifically at the running back position. They just keep going through running backs, and every guy they plug in seems to know how to run that scheme. So they've done a decent job picking players. All right. So the number 1 best thing I saw, this also could be on the flip side in the worst, the Commanders winning a game on a Hail Mary. It's it's just kind of luck. You set it up and then you throw it and just see what happens. First of all, he threw that ball a long way. It was almost a 70 yards in the air, almost something like that. And I mean, bouncing off another guy's hand, and then just the picture. I'd imagine that picture of him standing alone in the end zone catching the ball is all over the local Washington website and sports media stuff. It's just, once in a while it works, and man, that was a heartbreaker for the Bears for multiple reasons, which will come up in the worst ever category.
Well, and the DB who was talking the sideline instead of getting back in the position, is that what you're referring to?
Actually, no. I mean, he was down. He was down. That was a terrible look.
Yeah,
but he's not like, well, he was actually the guy who tipped it too,
right?
Which was even worse. But I mean, it's not like he was out of position. He was there, had his hands on the ball. It just didn't. Man, it was a bad look, mouthing off to the fans, and then not only losing the game, but being the guy who tipped it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it was I was really, first of all, I agree with your best ever. That was on my list too, and it was. It just doesn't happen often in the NFL, and it's a great way to end the game. That's a pretty climactic way of ending the game. So you got to, it's hats off to them for doing that. And it's not, I was been really surprised by the number of coaches and articles on ESPN that come out where how much they practice for and against the Hail Mary, right? So everyone was talking about, this is what we do on offense with the Hail Mary. We always have the tip guy. We got the guy in back. We got, and then on defense, they do the same thing. So, and the coach comes out and he's like, don't try to catch it. You just knock it down. That's all. Because if you try to catch it or tip it, then that kind of stuff can happen. But then guys don't want to just knock it down because they want to catch it. Goes as interception and the stats, and which means something, to defenders and everything. But I was surprised how much they've talked about it. And that's what's extra, frustrating if you're a Bears fan, is that they've practiced this and they tell them to just knock it down. And that's absolutely not what happened from the guy that was maybe should have paid more attention to practice than mouthing off to the, the fans on it's getting ready for the play.
But actually in that pack of everyone jumping, both offensive and defensive players, it looks like it's kind of hard to knock it down if you can even get your hand on it at all.
Yeah. No,
I guess he's just trying to interrupt its flight path, but instead they just volleyballed it and made it the easiest catch ever. So it actually worked out perfectly for the tip drill.
Yeah, no, exactly. Which is what they tell them not to do. So
yeah.
That's a good one. So my best thing I saw in the NFL this weekend was, and you alluded to it earlier, was Brissett playing for the Patriots, but specifically the last drive. Okay. So the Jets went up with not much time left, and this is the backup QB, and this is supposed to be the Jets get right game. And Brissett wasn't planning on starting that day, in fact, the keys have been handed over, and it's sort of been, May's going to be the guy. And he drove them down for the game-winning score. And that was, and it converted more than 1 3rd and 10. There was 3 of them or something like that, where he hung in the pocket and delivered the ball. And that was amazing. That's what you would expect from a Mahomes or someone like that at the end of the game. And he looked, that last drive, he looked amazing. And so that was, hats off to him, because is the backup coming in and winning, but it was that specifically a game-winning drive with 2 minutes left is really well done.
Multiple points in that drive, it looked like the game was over. And on the last play, he connected on a long pass, like you said, constantly converting third downs, maybe even multiple third downs. It was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so that was amazing.
Yeah. All right, moving on to worst ever.
Oh boy,
this is long. Okay, so number 3. This is a mouthful, and I had to take some serious notes so I could get through this. All right, inept goal line offense. We're talking about 4 different teams being first in goal, one of them twice, and among those 5 possessions, the end result was a total of 3 points. Now I'm going to go backwards from what I think is the worst. I don't even know. We're just gonna cover them. So in the Raiders Kansas City Chiefs game, the Raiders intercept Mahomes on a tip ball, and they're first in goal from the 3-yard line, and on 4 rushing attempts, and none of them worked. They end up turning the ball over on the 7-yard line. So they just went backwards 4 yards in 4 plays. That was one of the most inept attempts. That was utterly pathetic. It was just awful. You would think if you intercept the other team and you're first and goal on the 7, you might even get 3 points. You got zero. Zero in a low scoring game.
Worst case scenario, 3 points.
In a low scoring game.
Yeah.
Man. Next one, Titans. First and goal on the 7-yard line. Throw a pass. Defensive pass interference. Now it's first and goal on the 1-yard line. 4 consecutive incomplete pass plays, 0 points. And on the last one, the receiver caught it, but he had stepped out of bounds and then stepped back inbound. So he couldn't be the first person to touch the ball. So situational awareness there. They screwed that one up. Okay, so then the Bears, first and goal on the 9-yard line, run for no gain. Second down, pass to like the 2-yard line. Third down, some sort of gimmick play with a big guy at fullback, and he fumbles the ball on the way in. Commanders recover, no points. So we still haven't got a point yet here. This is 3 attempts at first and goal and no points. Now, the Seahawks saw all of that, and they're like, oh, we can do better. Seahawks, first and goal on the 5. They rush to the 1-yard line. Second and goal. The snap goes over Geno Smith's head, and they have to run back to and Walker recovers it on the 22-yard line. So now they're third and goal from the 22-yard line. Then they false start. Now they're third and goal on the 27-yard line. Then they get some nominal amount of yards, and they actually get a field goal. There's the only 3 points that ever happened. Then the Seahawks are like, but we can still do better than that. So the Seahawks, similar to the Raiders and the Chiefs, intercept Allen deep in their own territory. First and goal on the 7-yard line. They rush to the 5. Second and goal, they go to the 1-yard line. Third and goal, no gain. Fourth and goal, Geno Smith trips over his own lineman, sacked, turnover. That is one of the most pitiful displays of goal line offense I've ever seen. It was just pathetic across the board. No one from like the 1 or 2 yard line, no one could get anywhere near the goal line. And there was obviously good defense on the other side, but that when you have that many shots at it, that's an inept offense. No defense should be able to stop you 4 tries in a row. You either aren't calling at least something different. I don't know. Maybe it is just good defense. It was pretty. I mean, the bad snap, the Seahawks was mostly them screwing it up constantly. But in the other cases, the Bears fumble the ball. That's not good defense. Maybe the Chiefs is the only one where you could say that what really was good defense.
Yeah, no, those are really bad, and it makes when teams score on the goal line like that much more impressive. Like when there's like even in the San Fran game, I think Purdy did like a QB sneak once for a touchdown. And it just so being creative on the goal line and not coming away with nothing is
Well, and the other thing with the Raiders is they were in shotgun the whole way. They don't have an under center first. They don't have an under center goal line anything.
Yeah,
I thought against that D line, you're getting nowhere. How nothing under center, not even one try. It's terrible. All right, what do you got?
All right, so the number 3 worst thing I saw in the NFL this weekend is what Cincinnati has done to Barban's hopes for them to be the Kansas City playoff team. It's what's starting to sink in now because Cincinnati won 3 out of 4 games, so that's what gave us and you specifically, our hope. But now when you look back at their season, they've beaten the Browns, the Giants, and the Panthers. That's it. And they've lost to everyone else, Eagles, Ravens, Commanders, Chiefs, so they haven't beat a good team. And this looked, particularly they got handled this game. So that's
totally put in their place here.
Oh, you had such high hopes for them, this for this team and what they could mean in the playoffs and later on. But man, that went out the window. So that one was tough.
It's not Burrow. His team sucks.
No, it is. The
problem is one of the only quarterbacks who can make it to the Super Bowl and get past Mahomes is going to be on the sideline during the playoffs. He's just not, his team around him is not good enough. All right. Well, that segues me into my second worst thing I saw, teams with no run game.
Okay.
All right. This is in descending order. So the team I list first had the most yards.
Okay.
Panthers rushed for 69 yards, lost 28-14. Vikings rushed for 64 yards, lost 30-20. Bengals, this is part of the problem with the Bengals, rushed for 58 yards, lost 37-17. Dallas rushed for 56 yards. And we'll throw in a little spice on this one, and also gave up 223 yards on the ground. Lost 30-24, and some of that was garbage time points. That was a worse game than the points turned out. All right, well, the Raiders are like, well, we can do better than that. How about we'll rush for 33 yards and we'll lose 27-20. And what makes this one even more pitiful is the Chiefs only rushed for 82.
Yeah.
If you hold a team to 82 yards, you should be on the winning side of that ledger. Not
for
when
so
you
many
only
reasons.
go for 33.
You know, it's for so many reasons, because it's when you're running the ball, you can advance it, to get first downs, and it takes more time of possession. You're keeping the other team off the field. Like, there's a lot of levels to like why running the ball is so important.
Well, we're not done yet. In number one spot, again, Seahawks, we can do better. I'll see you your 33 yards and I'll raise you to 32 yards. Lost 31-10. That is pitiful. None of these teams too. Like, none of these teams have a chance because it's a recurring theme. We know the Panthers are dreadful, but the Vikings, if they can't get that together, that this season's going to fall apart on them pretty quickly. If that's the type of against a good team, if that's all they can muster up. The Bengals, that's part of the problem. The defense isn't great, but no run game. Burrow can't save a team with no run game. No quarterback can. Maybe Mahomes, but Burrow can't seem to do it. Dallas, you got to double up on the fact they can't run, plus they can't stop the run. So there's just no way to win like that.
Yeah.
And then the Raiders, that's a lost cause. And the Seahawks, man, and we've said this multiple weeks, Geno Smith has gaudy passing numbers, but it's not a good thing. It's because they can't run the ball.
Yeah, that's that's a tough list right there. That's that's really, it puts in perspective when teams do run the ball well, like how, what a difference that makes, and what's required in the personnel side to make that work.
And it doesn't need to be a pile of yards. 100 and change, 125, 130, 160. Those aren't all super impressive, but when you see an actual competitive game, that you have to have some amount of running yards to balance it out. Otherwise, they're just not going to make it.
All right. So the second worst thing I saw in the NFL this weekend was the San Francisco fourth quarter defense. They had this game completely under control, more than 2-score lead. They were running the ball well, as you talked about before. Dallas was not running the ball well, and it was in a position where I was going to stop watching, and I just started fast forward through the game, and it got to the point where Dallas had the ball back, down by 7, with like 2 minutes to go. Like, and so they not only was it those were garbage time points, like in hindsight, but like they put them in a position to win, like to win the game. That late, which is a giant mistake. So like that should never happen when you're that far ahead, or you've established that. Like you can't give the other team a way to win the game that late. Like that was really bad. So,
and there were some horrifically blown coverages in that stretch,
man. And a lot of penalties. This one, we've talked about penalties before. The penalties were killing this game, but it was they looked so amazing for most of this game, and then really didn't at the end. And that
couldn't rush the passer and couldn't cover anybody in that stretch. It was really bad.
Yeah.
The thing is, a lot of Dallas games look like that.
Yeah,
they get so far behind, and then the Packers playoff game looked like that. They were so far behind, they put up like 20 points in the last little bit. They were meaningless, but
that's the difference, is that in those ones too, they're never in a position to win the game. Like this was Dallas got the ball back with a position to win the game. Like that's should never happen.
All right, moving on to Flowers.
No, I got my worst ever. I haven't done my worst ever.
Wasn't that
yet.
Just your worst?
No,
ever?
that was my second one, because I had Cincinnati.
Oh, never mind. We got another
hopes.
Worst ever. You're right. Number one worst ever is Drake May's concussion.
Oh, God, that's a good one.
He was looking good. He's got the starting job. Looks like he's handling a pro offense. He was already had more touchdowns than Brissett for the whole year. Like it's like, okay, we got our guy. Let's see how he does.
Yeah.
And then he gets concussed.
No,
And it's not like it wasn't a crazy looking play either.
No, but it was, you could, on the replay, it looked like he got a pretty good knock. Like but no, it's like you alluded to this in a previous show that the serious injuries are such a bummer in the NFL. Like, I mean, I'm sure it's really bad for them, but it's, as an audience, like as a fan base, as a, it's an entertainment package. And to not have the personnel on the field just makes all the difference in the world. And it's just sad to see, because it's, the hope it's not hope it's not, doesn't miss a lot of time. I hope there's no lingering effects. Hope it doesn't make it more prone to concussions later. There's a lot of concerns you have about concussions, which is why they've made so many efforts to try to reduce them in the NFL. But yeah, that's just
Sucks.
so disappointing. It does. It's such a talent that you were not going to get a chance to see. So okay, so the worst thing that I saw, this is my University of Florida, Indianapolis Colts post-traumatic stress disorder with Richardson, because this is what I remember. This is unlimited potential, and I want nothing more than him to play really well, but to go for 10 for 32 passing and 5 sacks. That's what's mind-boggling, is that he's such a dynamic runner, and could one of the fastest people on the field, probably, and he gets sacked 5 times, and he can't. It's there's such a bad completion. And then there's games where he throws for 300 yards and runs for 100 yards. I just don't. But then this one, happens way too often.
He doesn't get blown out though. Isn't that weird?
I know. That was the thing. They had a chance in that game, but he had to have that bad of a game for them to lose that.
Imagine if he even had a just a decent completion percentage.
Yeah. He went 10 for 32. If he went 15 for 30 with 2 picks instead of 5 or 2 sacks, that,
Yeah, that could have been the game.
But that's what it brought me right back. I've seen multiple games with him like that. That's a killer.
Even though that's almost inevitable, I kind of still have to watch him.
I know it's really hope killing, because I want it to do well, and he can do it. It's just,
that's the problem. He can.
I know. Yeah. It's not that's the difference with Brock Purdy, who's a very efficient quarterback, and I like watching him and stuff, but he's never going to do an out of human, body experience, because that's his, but Richardson can. It's,
Yeah, it's we just take the beating. We go back and watch. All right, so moving on to Flowers then.
Yeah.
All right, Kirk Cousins, 23 for 29, 276, 4 TDs, no picks.
Yeah, something else that messed up our betting, because we had the under on that game, and there was he was the second coming of Joe Montana in that one. It looked fantastic, and Mayfield threw for over 300 yards, so we're wrong on that one. But that's the, good for him. That's the, you don't get to see Penix as much as you would have liked, but
yeah. Well, Cousins capable of that, and Mayfield good job without his top 2 receivers.
I had to squeeze in some Flowers somewhere for some of the Detroit Lions, because they won by, they had 50 points, and it wasn't going to be Goff because they threw for 100 yards. So I'm giving it to Gibbs for 11 rushes for 127 yards. Now, 70 of it came on one run, but still, whenever you average over 10 yards a carry in the NFL, that's significant. So you get some Flowers for that.
That run was impressive, because as soon as he got through the hole, he was gone.
Yeah.
And the one safety thought he had him, and it was, I don't have him at all. And once he turned the corner, it was
exactly. I love him. He was the option running back at Georgia Tech, and then transferred to Alabama. And it's sort of not a bruising back, but definitely not known for his breakaway speed. But he's a complete back. He can run, catch,
that's
fast,
the best running
strong
back room in the league for sure.
By far.
Those 2.
Montgomery.
Well, Montgomery threw for a touchdown too. Good for him. Flowers for Montgomery for that. All right. Matt Stafford, 25 for 34, 279, 4 TDs, and an interception. And like I said, completed a pass to 9 different receivers. He just looks like Super Bowl level Stafford right now.
Yeah, it looked like a different Rams team. That team has not played this season, other than that game against Minnesota
that we picked against.
That's why. There was, they heard that we bet against them, and then they're like, hold my beer and let me show you what we're capable of.
Yep.
Which I super appreciate that. Okay, and then I've got, who do I got here? Kyler Murray, right? So good game against Miami. Miami was on pace to win that more than one occasion. But no, he played great. It's 26 for 36, 307 yards, 2 TDs. It was good.
If you look at that box score, it's impossible to see how the Cardinals actually won that game.
Yeah.
Miami has just better numbers across the board. Obviously, statistics don't win the game, but there's nothing that jumps off the page as to how the Cardinals won that game. It just doesn't look.
No,
you
it's
can't
not
see
a lot
it in
of
the
turnovers.
numbers.
It's not in the yards.
No, you can't see it in the numbers. It's just by the end of the game. Yeah. And it never really felt like the Cardinals were in it till the very end.
No, that was the win percentage is pretty funny because it's all Miami, and then there's just a straight red line up at the end when the
Marvin Harrison Jr. looked good in that game too.
Yep, good to see him too because he's been
he got a little banged up there. Yeah. All right, so Jalen Hurts 16 for 20, 236, a touchdown, 37 rush yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. So this is peak Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
And man, was that ever a contrast to what was going on the other side of the field.
You're doing a great job of giving flowers to people that cost us our bets. So you're being way more generous than I would have been. But listen, they looked. That's again, I don't know where that team has been every week this previous season, but like when that team shows up, no one's going to stop them. That's why they went to the Super Bowl before. But they can absolutely play like that. So
I got a couple more. Are you done?
Yeah, no, I'm done. Yep.
All right, James Cook. 17 for 111 yards, 2 TDs, and 22 receiving yards. And I got to give one to Bo Nix.
That's the Buffalo guy, right? You're talking about
James Cook, yeah.
Who got signed off the practice squad or whatever too, right? Like he wasn't. Was that him?
No. James Cook is a regular. Okay. Bo Nix, you're really all about this practice squad stuff. Bo Nix. Okay, so it was against the Panthers, but 28 for 37, 284 yards, 3 TDs, no picks.
Still something. Right?
Yep. And I wonder what the Panthers ownership thinks when that was whatever number pick he was versus Bryce Young. And God, I'm hoping for Bryce Young to turn it around, and it's just not there. It just isn't there. No. And then the last one, Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah. I should have had that. He was
jet sweep rush for 39 yards and then 4 receptions for 38 yards. And just good for him for having a productive NFL game after getting shot 6 weeks ago, maybe. Like that just doesn't sound right.
No, it's not a practice squad thing. I wish it was, but it isn't. It was just a gunshot for when he was shopping for a new bag to travel on the road, and and it went through his chest and out his back and didn't require major surgery. How's that possible?
Missed every critical vessel, missed every critical nerve.
Unbelievable.
I heard a report. The physician said when you hear gunshot to the chest, 99.9% of the time you expect death. Not a guy playing an NFL game like within 2 months.
Hats off to him.
So that's good for him.
That's a good one. I should have had that one too.
That's all I got for that.
Yeah,
that review.
That was good. Not a bad NFL week.
Yeah, it was some pretty interesting games. And stick around. So we're going to do our picks for college and NFL for next week.